date is that?
The 18th.
18th. After that, we move into site plan review. The first item on site plan review is the application from Cumberland Farms, better known in our town as the Gulf Station. After that, we'll move into site plan review of the Patton Park Pool. And because I've had numerous phone calls asking about what time that might happen, I've estimated that probably about 8:30 we should be addressing the pool if everything goes right. But that's not a promise, it's just a summation. After that, general discussion. We'll be discussing the planning director position. An alternate member who's interested in being an alternate to the planning board. If we have time, discussion on, at my request, what is the interest, addressing our internet capabilities, future business. Now, to stay up to date with the law, I need to bore you by reading the notice of a public hearing. The Hamilton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on March 4th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. in the Memorial Room, Hamilton Town Hall, 577 Bay Road, in accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 10, and Hamilton Zoning Bylaw, Section VE, Senior Housing, and Hamilton Town Bylaw, Section XX1X, Stormwater Management relative to an application for senior housing development, Canterbrooks Estate, 354 Highland Street, Hamilton, Mass. 01982, submitted by Jerry Dawson, the applicant for the proposal to develop 24 units for senior housing on 13.9 acres of land in RB1B, that's elected zoning district. Application and plans are on file and available for review at the Hamilton Planning Department. And persons interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed application shall appear at that time and place designated. That's the public notice. As I reviewed in our agenda, that hearing will be continued because of a glitch in the posting to 2 weeks from now, and then we will hear it at that time.
Do we need to vote that as a continuance?
Yeah.
Would you make that motion?
So I would move that we continue the public hearing from tonight until March 18th.
March 18th. Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. So the next thing on the agenda is adjustment of property lines 434 and 438 Asbury Street. You've got copies of your plans in your portfolio. Christine, you're familiar with this. Could you explain to us what needs to be done? Sorry.
Yes, the last meeting you had, the applicant had pulled the paperwork from the assessor's office, which has the original two-lot subdivision as a residential A zoning. On the assessor's maps, that's the way it's been since 1957. However, the town that area is Res 1B, so he needs a different frontage. And the plan you'll see two little legs jogging out from lots 2 and 3 to give it each one a little bit more frontage. The acreage stays the same. They're all 80,000 square feet plus, and the front lot remains mostly unchanged. It had frontage on Asbury and had plenty of it. So this is really a frontage adjustment.
So all your concerns have been addressed?
Yes, that the third lot was not grandfathered.
I make a motion that we approve the A&R subdivision for 434, 438 Asbury Street as presented.
Second.
Seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor of the change?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Have you guys sign 2 regular plans and a Mylar while the consultant is setting up for the next. You want to start, Rick and Peter, if you guys will sign 2 of these for my office copies.
Yeah, what are you doing, 2 copies?
Yeah.
Five signatures.
I have 2, yes. No, we're not allowed.
Oh, well, I can do it up
No, no,
here.
no, 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 that's fine. That's on me. Fine.
Yeah. You don't want to sign? No, the name out on the side.
They need a majority, that's all.
You've got them now.
Yeah. Okay. And this one.
For those of you who are new to this procedure, I'd like to update you on what site plan review is according to the town bylaws. So I'll just read one paragraph so you get some feel for what Cumberland Farms and the pool presentation will be about tonight. Site plan review is intended to allow the town to review and impose reasonable conditions on development allowed as a right or by special permit, which is by nature or location has the potential for significant impacts on traffic circulation, public safety, public utilities, environment, and neighborhood character and appearance. The purpose is to provide a mechanism and a process for fitting the proposed development to the neighborhood character, scale, and infrastructure. Some ground rules about public participation. The way we will do it is we'll have the presentation from the presenters. We'll have comment from the planning board amongst themselves with the audience listening. And at that point, if there is anyone in the audience that has something to say relative to the proposal, they'll be given a chance to speak. Then we'll go back to discussion once again by the board. And then, as, see, I understand this, we're gonna have this application tonight, but we will have another meeting 2 weeks from now to formally address what we've learned. If that's all right with everyone, can you introduce yourself?
Yes.
And by the way, that microphone doesn't work, so it's just there as a discussion.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Matthew Leidner. I'm with a company, Civil Design Group. We are the civil engineers working for Cumberland Farms on this project. With me tonight is Dawn Johnson from Cumberland Farms. Next to her is Phil Henry, also from Civil Design Group. And next to Phil is Heather Montecup from GPI, and she's the traffic engineer on this project. My goal tonight is to walk you through the plans that we have submitted thus far and just give you an idea of what we're proposing to do on the site. And based on our informal meetings with town staff, as we understand it, the planning board is advisory to the ZBA on this particular project. So the retail, as we understand it, is allowed by right. The gas use is special permit through ZBA. Both require site plan review as well, and then the planning board would be advisory. So that's how we understand this process. And so what we've done is we've submitted certain key plans to you at this point, which I'll walk through tonight. And our goal was to get feedback on those plans and what we discussed tonight, which we can then take back and produce a full plan set for the special permit and the site plan review, and then reappear before you in 2 weeks and present the final plan set, which incorporates the feedback that we get tonight. So you don't have a full plan set before you, but there's several key plans here that I'd like to run through. And the submission deadline for the ZBA is March 14th. I believe your next meeting's on the 18th. So our goal is to have the full plan set in on the 14th for ZBA, and then also before you as well on the 18th. So that being said, the existing site, 121 Bay Road, so it's the corner of Bay and then Walnut. There's a side street here. It's an existing Gulf Station, 1.36 acre site. It's in the Business B zone, although there's a small piece toward the rear, back up here, that is zoned residential. However, we're not doing any work, we're not proposing any work within that. So the project, as we're proposing it, is fully contained within the business zone. There's an existing gas station service building here, and then the gas canopy up in front of it with 3 gas pumps. And then over here, we have the underground storage tanks and 3 curb cuts, 1 on Walnut and then 2 on Bay Road. The proposal is to raise the entire site, remove the building, remove the canopy, the gas pumps, the underground storage tanks, remove all the pavement, essentially wipe the site clean and start from scratch.
Can you just point out where the gas line is?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't mention that. There's a 20-foot gas easement that runs along this rear property line. It's really a side property line on Walnut. So it's a 20-foot swath that runs all the way back from Walnut all the way to this corner of the
Is it
site.
from the edge of the property 20 feet in to the property?
Yes, in fact, I have an existing conditions plan. Well, I'll show it to you on here. This is the proposed site plan. This darker line here, that's the property line. The green here goes up to the gas easement, so it's this strip of white through here that's actually the gas easement. It's a high-pressure gas transmission line. Tennessee Gas operates it. We've been in contact with them, not to get off too far into an aside here, but we've been in contact with them. They've seen this plan, and they have approved this plan internally. Basically, as long as we stay out of the easement, they are happy. So this is the proposed site plan that was submitted in your package. This is just a colored version of it. It's otherwise the same plan. And what we're proposing is a 4,650 square foot convenience store building right here. 4 multi-product fuel dispensers along Bay Road in front of the building. 2 new 20,000 gallon state-of-the-art underground storage tanks over in this area. A total of 17 parking spaces, where 16 are required by zoning, so we meet the zoning requirement for parking. The existing site has 3 curb cuts, the one on Walnut and 2 on Bay. The proposed also has 3. The 2 on Bay are proposed to be narrowed up slightly and better defined. They're essentially in the same place as they are today, but they will be narrowed up. There will be curbing installed on site to really define those, and landscaping as well. The one on Walnut shifts slightly, but is aligned opposite the entrance into the shops at Hamilton Crossing, and is otherwise, essentially the same circulation as exists today. We met informally with town staff, both representing planning and the ZBA, and one of the comments that we got back, some of the feedback, involved some off-site improvements to better facilitate pedestrian movements in this area. Where there's an existing sidewalk along Bay Road that crosses the railroad tracks, which cross this intersection, we've proposed opposite our site a curb ramp with a crosswalk over to our side, and then redoing the sidewalk along our frontage on Bay Road, and also extending a sidewalk where there's not one today up Walnut to a certain point in this area, and then a crosswalk across Walnut to another proposed curb ramp. And that would allow pedestrians coming from up this direction to cross over here and get over to the shops at Hamilton Crossing. We ideally would have liked this crosswalk to be closer or at the intersection. However, the orientation of the train tracks, the railroad gate signal, it precludes us from doing that. So if we can't be right at the intersection, we have to then be back far enough for safety. And Heather can speak to that a little bit further. But I want to make you aware of the off-site improvements that we're proposing as part of this project. We submitted a detailed landscaping plan as part of the package. The trees are shown, the trees and the shrubs, the plantings are all shown on here. We were particularly sensitive to the fact that this is a residence that abuts us on this side, so we tried to screen this a little bit more back here. And then also, this is an office building here, but there's some existing buffering, some trees there, and we just tried to supplement that a bit as well, to keep some buffering there. We also have some street trees proposed along both frontages. I should mention too that as part of the sidewalk that we're proposing to extend up Walnut to this crosswalk, we also have a connection into our site from there for pedestrian access into our site. Again, this is the proposed landscaping plan that was submitted. Those symbols were shown on that site plan as well. We also submitted a proposed lighting plan. And the fixtures that we're proposing here are LED pole-mounted lights, 14-foot height, so they're relatively low. They're full cutoff fixtures, down lighting. They're very energy efficient, being LED. And we also included a spec sheet on those lights. So it's these lights up here that are the actual pole lights that are being proposed. And we tried to minimize any spillover of property lines and That's shown in the photometric score that was submitted and is before you tonight. As far as utilities and drainage, we intend to prepare a full drainage report for this project. It has not been finalized as of yet. What we envision is a subsurface detention system, some underground chambers or galleys, to get the peak flow rate in the proposed down to match or below the existing. We also are going to look at potentially infiltrating the rooftop if the soil conditions and groundwater conditions allow that. This site is on septic. The proposed building is actually pushed back to where the septic exists today, the septic field. So we are going to propose a new septic system. We're going to be doing perk testing tomorrow, and we're going to target this area out here as our prime septic area. Although we are willing to move around depending on what we find for soils, but we would ideally like to have it back here. Also before you tonight are architectural elevations of both the building and the canopy. This is the front of the proposed building, and then the back, and then we have the two other views as well. The architecture is a New England farmhouse style clapboard, vinyl clapboard siding. I have a simulation of the samples board of the materials that they use. So this is the siding here. They use a simulated wood trim, like an AZEK type material for the trim, architectural asphalt shingles on the building as well. And the same theme ties into the canopy and the proposed sign as well, which I'll get to momentarily. This is the proposed canopy elevation. The canopy is proposed to have a mansard roof, and the shingles on the roof match the shingles on the building, so that ties together. Also, along the base of the building is a stone veneer skirting around the building, and that same stone carries into the base of the columns on the canopy as well, again, just to tie things together. The color palette is the same on the canopy as the building, so again, architecturally, the site really ties together between the canopy, the building, and then the signage, which I'll show you momentarily. This is the proposed freestanding sign. It's approximately 57 square feet in area. We believe that this sign meets the requirements under zoning in terms of area. We don't believe there's a sign height or setback requirement. We're proposing it generally in the same location as the existing sign, which I'll point to on the site plan. So it's up in this corner here.
Is that a tree there?
Here?
Just behind the tree or bush?
That's a tree. Goes behind it.
Is the sign right at the tree or?
The sign will be next to the tree, and then right around the sign, we keep the plantings low, such that the sign is not obscured.
And what was your statement, 57 square feet? You don't mean that. Is that what you said?
50, yes, I did.
5.7 maybe?
No,
57 square feet?
50, yes, so the size of the sign here,
What is
So-
height and width there? What is it?
so the sign itself, from ground surface to the top, is 20 feet proposed.
Yeah.
The width here, the sign itself is 6 feet wide, and then there's 12-inch columns on each side. So the total width there is 8 feet. this sign here, the Cumberland Farms sign, that's 3.5 feet tall. And then from this line here to this line here, so the proposed price area, that's 5.5 feet tall. The
You're
signs,
counting from the ground up and all the rest of it.
Total surface area.
of the sign?
Yeah.
Surface area,
Right.
Yeah.
That's what 57.
correct. And the 20 feet is from the ground surface, so the planter is included within that 20 feet. There's a stone planter, and that stone again ties into the stone that's used on the building and the bases of the columns under the canopy.
So the sign is 25 feet tall and 8 feet wide?
No, 20 feet tall, and then 8 feet from outside of pillar to outside of pillar, 6 feet between them, the actual signage.
And how high are the bushes that are going to be in front of it?
The bushes that are in front of them, I believe they are intended to be no taller than 4 feet in height. So they'd be, well below this sign area. We also submitted as part of the package a potential refacing option of the existing sign. So that's also in your package. Again, after reading the zoning, we believe that this does comply with zoning. So this is what we would prefer to build. However, depending on the feedback we get tonight and from the ZBA, we wanted to just show this option here, which is refacing. That's the existing sign there. And then this is what we would propose to reface it. So we wouldn't change the height or the area, we would just be refacing that sign. I have some renderings of the site that are intended to give a general feel for what the architecture is going to look like, what the sign would look like. These renderings, the one thing they don't show, which is intentional, is the landscaping, because we wanted to allow you guys to see the full view of the building. So keep in mind, there will be street trees, there will be the plantings all through here, but in order to really see what the building, the sign, and the canopy, and just the site in general would look like, we wanted to keep that out. This is Bay Road here, running through here, railroad tracks here, and Walnut going up this way. So these are the same exact view. This is an actual existing photo. You can see the existing building, canopy. Here's the existing sign on the corner. And then this is the proposed rendering superimposed on that photo. And again, proposed building, canopy. And then this is the proposed sign that I presented, which is the 20-foot, 57-square-foot sign. And then I have one other view standing up Bay Road looking back this way. It doesn't show as much of the building, but you get a good sense of the canopy. You can see the mansard roof, etc. And then also here's the sign down here at the corner of Bay and Walnut.
What is the setback from the canopy?
The canopy, my feeling is this photo actually shows, it conveys it being closer than it actually is proposed. The existing canopy is about 11 feet off the property line, and the proposed canopy is actually 33 feet off. So it's about 3 times as far off the property line proposed as existing.
That view makes it look like it's much closer.
Right.
It looks like it's 5 feet off the street.
Really what we're,
Twice as tall.
I understand what you're saying, and really what we're intending to convey here is really the look of the architecture, more so than the setback. We can revisit the rendering in terms of the setback, but
I would suggest you do that, because it just,
sure.
it looks outrageous. And it's not.
Right. Understood. You can also in this view see the sign, existing sign here, and then the proposed.
mind momentarily showing the audience the photographs?
These?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is there's two views here. This view is looking up Bay Road and Walnuts over here. Here's the site, building, canopy, and sign, and then same view with a rendering of the proposed building, canopy, and then the sign. This is the other view, looking back the other way, down Bay Road. So Walnut is over here. And again, existing building and canopy, and then proposed. And what I had said before to the planning board is, this canopy here is approximately 11 feet in from the property line. And although it doesn't look like it necessarily in this view, this canopy is actually 33 feet in. It's much further into the site than the existing.
And do you know what the length is of that canopy versus the current canopy?
The proposed canopy is 113 feet long. And the existing, I need to refer to the plan.
Yeah, I can't read it.
Yeah.
53,
There's not a dimension.
existing canopy.
Yeah, that's actually, that's a spot shot elevation, I think. I got one. Excuse me, 1 minute. I have a
I've got
sketch.
one.
Perfect.
Figure it out.
So, yeah, it's just under 50.
So essentially doubling of the length of the,
Yes, and the orientation of the pumps is changing from being parallel with Bay to being perpendicular to Bay Road. So where these are aligned this way.
Now you've got the current plan and the future plan. What is the percent increase in the base area and roof areas and so forth?
The impervious area is going to go from approximately .38 acres to approximately .67 acres. So there is going to be an increase in impervious, which we plan to offset through a detention system to offset the peak flow rate, but we also intend to, as long as we can get the soils and groundwater to work, infiltrate the rooftop to offset that increase.
And in the current area, you were doing just the surface area, or were you including the roof of the existing building?
That included all impervious areas,
All
so that was pavement and
All right.
rooftop.
So it's going from .38 to
So-
.6.
Approximately .38 to about .67.
It looks like a lot more to me, but okay. And you haven't finished the infiltration plan and the capacity that you have and so forth, and that work hasn't been finished.
Correct, that has not been finished. Part of that will be, tomorrow, we're going to be doing test pits,
Yeah.
both for septic and for the stormwater purposes, where we can find out what seasonal high groundwater is and design the system accordingly.
So I might just ask a little bit about the use of the surface. For example, to the, as I look at it anyway, to the right side of that building, is all that going to be extra parking and you're gonna have a lot of need for that space, or are you planning on selling cars there, or what's all that?
This area here?
Yeah,
That is part of the parking area. This building really has two fronts, if you will, on it, two main entrances, one on Bay and one on Walnut. And under the zoning, this site requires 17 parking spaces. Sorry, 16 parking spaces. We are proposing 17 parking spaces. So we're not proposing, in terms of parking, anything that's well in excess of what's required here. And this number of parking spaces is very typical for what a Cumberland Farms would do at one of its stores. So this is by no means excessive, both from a zoning or just an operational standpoint from their experience.
So, I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate questioning, but
No problem.
is the whole nature of the merchandising changing completely? Because this has been just a gas station with gas station products and so forth, and now you're changing it into a convenience store. Could you give us some sort of full description of what the nature of the store process is going to be?
I can do that. I don't, Dawn, would you might do a better job than I would at that question.
Great.
Good evening, my name is Dawn Johnson with Cumberland Farms. I'm the current project manager for the site. Currently our store, Cumberland Farms, the owners have merged with Gulf a long time ago. And in doing so, we've kind of started going through our chain and revamping all of our current locations, including some Gulfs. Those Gulf sites that we deem profitable, we've started taking them over and started remodeling them into our current convenience store. As you know, as you've seen, we've come up with a new logo, a new look, the green, the blue. And in doing that, we've also redesigned our interior, which is now we are doing a whole food program. And I say food as in already frozen prepared food, but convenient for the customer. Pizza, sandwiches that can heat up or take on the go, soups, things like quick stuff that is still rather nutritious still, but not on the McDonald's level. And also we've enhanced our coffee program and our fountain soda program also. So with all those things combined, we have we started going through and, like I said, picking sites that we deem would be more profitable and be better utilized on certain sites that seem underdeveloped for us at this point in time.
Are you going to have beer and wine?
No, not at this location. Does that answer your question?
It'll be the standard modern gas station convenience store that sells fast food, dairy products, drinks, candies, potato chips, pretzels, some quick items that people might want, soups, that kind of stuff. Just run in and grab it and run out again.
Correct. Currently, if you go to one of our, and I say our older stores, a lot of it is designed for, a lot of the grocery items that you would not go to, that you still want to Stop and Shop or the supermarket you just go in and get. Our new model is now half the store is designated to just our food program, food and coffee, and then we've cut back on the shelving. We will still sell like toilet paper, paper products and chips and stuff. We've just minimized the amount of shelving that would do that. But we still have milk, orange juice, ice cream, that type of thing in the coolers and the freezer also.
And how, I know that you have a template for sites. How amenable are you to modifications in the design?
Depends.
That's a loaded question.
It is. I know it's a loaded question. It depends on what aspect of the building you're looking to change.
Well, I assume you've got an economic model that you assume that per square foot revenue stream out of
Correct.
the building as well as the fueling stations. So are those sacred cows that are etched in stone, or?
Nothing is ever really etched in stone. There are certain features This is the current floor plan.
Yep.
That goes with the elevations. As you can see, the two main entrances are here, which marry up to these two entrances here. So essentially, when we were laying out the floor, we want people to walk in, as I said, and I'll keep referring back to our older stores. When you walk into our older stores, they're very tight and very small and claustrophobic, and you've got barely enough room to walk down the aisles. We wanted to get completely away from that. We wanted people to come in and feel open and spacious. So what we've done is, when you walk in, when you walk in the front doors, the ceilings are vaulted, so it gives you a more open feeling. The checkout is right in front of you for the convenience of if you're just a gas customer, you just want to come in, check out. And then to the right is all of our food program, our coffee bar, and all to the left is the grocery items, the walk-in cooler and freezer, and our restrooms are tucked in back.
And it looks like you have outside seating.
That is also part of our new look, is to add just patio seating, and those are the type of chairs that are bolted to the ground, and then the seats are up, and the first seat is always eliminated for our handicap accessible customers. And then surrounding it with two openings on either side is a 42-inch black ornamental fence, and then on each corner there, and in the middle are also black lamp posts that have, a little bit of lighting up top, more for ambiance than anything.
Are they how close are they to where you drive in to buy your gas?
The tables? The tables are seated here, so they're not very close. And we've also positioned some trees to kind of give them more of a secluded area, so you're not really eating on the parking lot. You can, take your sandwich or your drink and kind of sit and kind of relax for a little while without being too imposed.
Are you enlarging the septic? Are you doing more bathrooms than you had?
We are, yes, that's also another change to our business model, is we are trying to get away from just the single user, like single men, single women. We're now going to multi-users. So that way, we have 2 stalls for the men and 2 stalls for the women, one each being handicap accessible.
Where is the trash? In the back of the building?
The dumpster, okay. The dumpster is located on the opposite end of the building from the patio, and it's tucked in around on the side of the building. And that's also enclosed in a white vinyl fence, white stockade vinyl fence.
The only thing I'm a little surprised at is how many bays are you gonna have for gas?
Dispensers are 4.
Oh, it's just, okay, so it's.
4 dispensers.
How many pumps
So
is that?
that's,
4 dispensers.
8 pumps.
8 fueling positions. So a car on each side of the dispenser.
And how sacrosanct is that for fueling station to this plan?
Are you asking code to reduce the number of dispensers?
Yes.
Possibly, that is a decision for my upper management, but
Right, yeah.
but have we in other positions? Yes.
That's my only sort of general first concern, is because you're moving from a canopy that's 53 feet to over 100 feet, or approximately 100 feet, 110 feet, which is, and maybe the visual representation on that photo over dramatized it, but that's a lot of roof area. And I know you're doing it to cover the fueling stations, so I'm guessing the only way you would reduce it in size is if you reduced or removed a fueling station, which would make it probably 25 feet shorter. So instead of being 50 feet, it would be approximately 75 feet.
Another option would be for us to, instead of losing a dispenser, currently we show 27 feet from edge of island to edge of island inside the middle.
Yeah.
And we were doing that most current gas stations today are 20 feet between, so just enough 2 cars can fit. We were allowing, we've been showing on our bigger sites up to 35 feet, and that's more so cars aren't tight coming through.
Yeah.
We could keep the 4 and reduce that 27 down to get that down to a smaller overall canopy length.
It's
So-
something you might wanna consider, and just,
Can we ask a little bit about the economics? Because this is a highly competitive price location. Right across the street is another convenience store, and they have the exact same price. They go up and down together. And in North Beverly, we have heavily discounted prices, which are substantially lower. So people have patterns of purchasing already. I've never bought any gas in this town. I've always gone to North Beverly because it's, 15 to 20 cents less. So why would anyone buy it here? Well, now you're gonna triple the size of the number of pumps and so forth, and I don't understand that. Are you planning to have all of the North Shore come to this store? And
Well,
I don't mean
based
to be
on-
rude, I'm just saying you have to have some matching strategy, because you don't want it just to be an empty place.
Correct, it's based on previous volume, projected sales, based on, and to be honest, I don't go into, we have a whole department that all they do is number crunch.
Yeah.
And so, based on their model and what they've projected this future store to do, it's worth us investing the money into this site. Do I hope? Yes, I do hope with 4 dispensers that we will pull some people from Beverly. I would anticipate that our gas marketing company will be very aggressive and compete with the surrounding gas stations. We also have another department. That's all they do is they check gas prices and make sure that we're in line and that we're competing with them. So I would hope that for us to do what we want to do at this site, that we would want to try to have you not go to Beverly and stay in town and buy gas from us and go to our store.
20% less, do it.
I'm trying.
by the way, Peter, you don't need to go to North Beverly, go to Asbury gas station. They meet or beat any price in North Beverly.
I understand that you've built a similar station in Lexington, the town of Lexington.
That's actually my project, yes.
And is it almost a duplicate of this? Lexington, what I'm getting at, Lexington is a very fussy community.
Yes, I'm very well aware of, yes.
We also are a very fussy community. Tell me how it's related. Do you have a picture of Lexington or anything with you?
I do not have a picture of Lexington with me, but Lexington, the building is
It's 40,000 people.
different,
50,000 people.
only in that in Lexington, the site was much smaller. It was also a corner site, but a very narrow and shallow site. The building in Lexington is more in line with a typical building, and I say typical as in, the building was, it was 80 feet long and about 34 feet deep because of the restraints on the site. So it was more like a rectangle than here, based on that topography. But other than that, the building materials are identical. The canopy is identical. The pole sign, I think in Lexington, my pole sign is shorter based on height, based on zoning. But the LED sign there, that was also, and the ID sign is identical as far as what it would look like and style. So everything in Lexington is the same here.
I wanted to ask Matthew,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
You had said, did you say you met with some members of the planning board and the ZBA earlier?
Well, it wasn't me personally, it was Phil Henry, who's sitting here from my office.
Met
And
with,
not with members of those boards, but with staff representing those boards.
We met with Christine.
So with Christine and Deb.
and then you talked about the 113-foot canopy, which, my personal reaction is that's, just thinking about the town, is huge in terms of scale. I'm trying to think of something in town that long, I would say that that is disproportionately large relative to the scale of the character of the downtown, that would be, but how high is that canopy as well?
It's-
And is there lighting
There
underneath
is-
that carriage?
Yes, there is lighting underneath it. Let me go back to the canopy elevation.
The canopy is 14 feet high to the underdeck. So from, if you're standing on the ground, at grade, it's 14 feet to the underdeck where the lights are. And then it has roughly about a 4-foot mansard, 4-foot fascia system. And then we have like a 3-foot mansard on top of that.
So the total height would be,
15, 17, 14, 17, 20, roughly around 21 feet, give or take,
so it's 21 feet high at the top.
Right.
to the top of the mansard of the roof, right.
So again, it's 14 here to the underneath, then about 4 feet fascia, and then about a 3-foot mansard.
I
For a
mean,
total.
again, I would just say, just as a personal thought, that just seems enormous relative to the scale of the town. And then the other issue is, you've got that 57 square foot sign at 20 feet high and 8 feet wide. How does that compare with the Gulf sign that's currently there? What's the height?
The
of
Gulf sign is approximately 16 feet in height, and the surface area is approximately 32 square feet.
How malleable is Cumberland on making the sign? I mean, in other words, it's not like we have Route 95 to see your sign here, you know, it's just this little downtown. So how understanding would they be to making that scale down slightly? Because you're gonna see it, it's the only big sign right there. And then the other question is, how many Cumberland Farms signs are you gonna have on, and how big are they over both entrances? And is there any other place you intend to have repeat signage?
There's a proposed 30 square foot sign over each entrance. I'll show you those on the elevation. So this sign here is approximately 30 square feet. So that's facing Bay. And then the elevation facing Walnut is the same sign. Another one of the same, so another 30
And
square
they
foot.
lighted as well?
They're internally lit.
And then is the lighting plan to be designed so does it go off at night in case there were tenants, and there are tenants living next door to your crash at the moment? So what is your intention on signage? What is your typical pattern on that?
When the site closes, the area lights, everything shuts down. So there are no lights on at night.
When is it closed? Define night, please.
When we close, when the business shuts down and closes for good.
What time?
What are we asking here? We typically ask for 24 hours, and then we start cutting back. So if there's a closing time, the lights go off at half hour after closing. So when store manager, for instance, if the store closes at 11 p.m., the store manager locks the doors at 11, and then he or she is leaving by 11:30. At 11:30, all the lights go off in the parking lot and the store and the pole sign. So there's no lights on at all on the site.
Can you also explain, will the storage tanks be larger because you've got 8 gas tanks instead of 4 pumps or whatever?
Correct. We currently have, I believe, 24,003/8.
So-
We're proposing 2 20,000-gallon split compartmental double wall fiberglass tanks. 2 regular, 1 premium, and 1 diesel.
And is Cumberland responsible environmentally when the old one comes out, because it's old?
Part of the requirements when we remove tanks is we have a environmental consultant on site that when they remove the tanks, they also test the dirt underneath the tanks to just as safety precaution to make sure that there has been no leaks. And then that's tested and that's reported. So there are state requirements for us to do when removing and installing the tanks. Yes.
And then the last question is, you had that Tennessee pipeline, the gas line in the back. People use that as bike paths and walking paths, and that will stay there.
Yes, we're not proposing to do any work, and nor will Tennessee allow us to do any work within that 20-foot gas easement. So that will stay the way it is today.
And actually, if I could just add, when we originally met with Christina and Deb, this site was mirrored and rotated such that the dumpsters were where the outdoor seating was, and the outdoor seating was on the north side of the site. Based on discussions, we've mirrored and we flipped that building such that the outdoor seating is next to where that Tennessee gas line is, because we were told that was used as a pedestrian access.
So that's why the other drawing was wrong, it showed the seating over
It was a
on the
mirrored,
side.
the architecture was
Okay.
mirrored, yes.
That was confusing me, yes.
That was a good catch.
Can you address hours of operation? I don't know what your present license specifies, or if it specifies anything.
Currently it's a golf. I'd have to check what their current hours are. I assume it's probably not 24 because he's a service bay, so he's probably not at 24 hours. We would be
I
asking.
think he closes at 10,
Was it 9?
No, he closes at
Nine.
9.
I'm sorry, what did you say, 24 hours?
We would be requesting 24. I'm not familiar, I'm not.
So your intention is to have a station that's open 24 hours a day?
Nobody stays awake here more than half past 9. Share that with you.
Oh,
We're sleeping now.
And how about deliveries? The town that I work in, the next town, it was supposed to be limited in hours to 11 o'clock or midnight, and there wasn't supposed to be any trucking. This is a different gas station, but it's a problem that this is, you know, this a residential neighborhood. And the shoulder of this property, and the next town, we've got deliveries taking place at 3 o'clock in the morning and waking up the residents. So I'd like to hear you address the fact of when are your deliveries coming?
you can restrict as part of the conditions when delivery times are, and it happens all the time, and we're very used to that. For instance, in Lexington,
The question is, are the neighbors used to it?
Well, no, we can
We
restrict.
can
you can restrict delivery
we can
times,
recommend
which is very
restriction.
common for us. Like in Lexington, they can't deliver gas between the hours of 11 p.m. Actually, no, it's like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So we can only deliver gas from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. only.
But did you say the store tanks are over by the trash? Storage
Yeah,
tanks
I'll
are-
point to them.
The current ones are over on Walnut, so you're saying the new ones will be, where will the new tanks be?
The current ones are over in this area,
Right.
and the new tanks, they're shown on here, but they're kind of light, the color of them, they don't stand out that much, but they're right in this area here.
So that, because when you see that truck pull in to do that tank, it's a big operation when they deliver.
Right, so this tank, the truck would come in, circulate counterclockwise through the site, come in the Walnut driveway, come across the front of the store, stop here, unload the fuel, and then come back out onto Bay and back out. So that the operation as it exists today is much closer to the street. This gets it farther from the street and also puts the building between the fueling operation and the residents, so as that's happening, the view of the fueling operation would actually be screened by the building.
Well, there is a resident on that side too.
Over on
that
this side?
It's an apartment,
An apartment.
Okay.
that's a business.
And again, we're proposing significant screening, landscaping screening through here. We were sensitive to that and the abutter on this side as well.
Could you just, you showed the lighting, can you just, I couldn't get a handle, are they like tall lights? They're
I'll
down lighting, you said, and are they all LED outside?
They're all LED, they're not tall, we actually went relatively low on this site. They're 14-foot height off the ground. And I have a spec sheet here, so. These here are the pole lights here. So that's the top of the pole, and then that's the light itself. So as you can see, it's down lighting, it's full cutoff, and it's LED.
And the canopy lights are cut off as well.
Yeah, well, they're under the canopy, so, but,
Yes, they're within the deck, we said so in the deck.
They're recessed.
Yes.
Does that have lights inside, or?
I'm sorry,
The main sign, the 20-foot sign?
That is internally lit. Let me go to that.
And may I just add that the pole signs, only the letters are illuminated, not the white backing.
So this area here, actually it might be better to show on the rendering. So the white part of the sign here is actually a metal housing, painted white. And then there's punched out letters within that housing that say Cumberland Farms, and it's just those letters that are lit. And then, of course, the pricing is lit.
There'll be no landscaping on Bay Road.
No, they're showing that.
The
Well, it's on the corner, but I mean on Bay Road.
right, so, well, we have one tree here, then we have the one here at the corner. We didn't want it in front of, on the Bay Road side of the sign, so we shifted it up here as well. So there is some landscaping, the three trees, we have some smaller shrubs as well in here. But the width of that strip is much smaller too than the one on Walnut. There wasn't as much available space, but what we did have, we tried to fill with landscaping.
Just remind me again, how far are the dispensers on your project versus the dispensers today?
The canopy, I know I'm not directly answering your question, but I will try. The canopy itself is about 11 feet existing off the property line, and it's approximately 33 feet off in the proposed. So the dispensers themselves are, say, 37 or 38 feet off the property line in the proposed, where in the existing they're probably 15 to 20 feet off, if that.
You know, I really, I'm horrified by this, and I think you seriously misjudged the town. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think the town will embrace that. I think it's way too big. I think it's way too in your face. There's no saying that sometimes less is more, and I really strongly encourage you to think about that. This isn't Lexington, this is Hamilton. I buy my gas at that Gulf station for one reason and one reason only. The guy who's run it for the last 10+ years, Sam, is a terrific guy, and so I have loyalty to him. I have no loyalty to Cumberland Farms, nor do I think anybody else does. And if you come in with that project with a 20-foot sign, we don't need a 20-foot sign to tell us there's a gas station. We don't need a huge canopy to interrupt the flow of the town. So I think if I were you, I think about the people who live in the town, who would be going there to buy gas, and whether you think that they'd honestly embrace that. I don't think they will. I think you're making a big mistake. I strongly encourage you to downsize it with respect to the sign and the canopy as much as possible. I think it will cost you a lot of money. Because I can tell, I'm just one guy, but you'll never see me there. And I think that there are a lot of people who feel that way in this town. For what it's worth. I know you represent a big corporation, but that's my view.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think I would support Jeff in that scale of the canopy. And just as a recommendation from the planning perspective, the scale of that canopy is enormous relative to the downtown. And that would be a recommendation from the planning board if we all agree.
Well, we're gonna meet with them in 2 weeks, so I think they've heard the issues that are.
Well, is there anything else that resonates for the planning board?
I think.
Well, I agree with the two of you that this is entirely out of scale for the town of Hamilton. The town of Hamilton is not a tourist location. We have very few transient people moving from one town to another. This isn't Route 128. The sign looks like something ought to be out on the Mass Turnpike. I truthfully believe that the townspeople will not support you. what Jeff says about buying gas there, my wife and I buy gas there because the man that runs it, Sam, is a hell of a good mechanic and a very personable individual. And unlike Peter, I pay a few more cents for that privilege. And if you think I'm going, oh, my wife is gonna buy milk from you, you're nuts.
Could we maybe ask the traffic expert what they've learned about the potential market? Because I think there's another side to this story that we haven't heard yet. There's a transient traffic flow through our community, and I don't know whether that's the big market that all of a sudden, instead of a 7,000 citizen town, you're talking about a 25,000 market area because of all the through traffic. I just don't know what your marketing model is.
I can talk about traffic if you'd like.
Yeah?
I'm gonna just stand up here. So for the record, I'm Heather Monacup. I'm with Greenwood Peterson, and we're the traffic engineers for the proposed project. In your packet, you should have a preliminary traffic study. So we did prepare what we could in time for this meeting. With school vacation, we didn't want to do counts on the weekends of school vacation. But what is in your study is a preliminary study with the Saturday information and daily information missing, because we did not gather that until this past weekend. They talked about the store. It is going from a service station with 6 vehicle fueling position gas station to a convenience store with 8 vehicle fueling positions. Our traffic study did look at the unsignalized intersection of Bay Road at Walnut Road, the 2 site driveways on Bay Road, the 1 site driveway on Walnut Road, as well as the 3 site driveways to the shops at Hamilton Crossing. I'm just gonna kind of quickly go over this. If you have any questions, you can ask me. But to your question about counts at the site and whatnot, we did count the driveways, and surprisingly, the site generates more than what the Institute of Transportation Engineers say that it would generate. So that's what we had to look at, was what does the site generate today, what's it gonna generate in the future? And when we do that, we look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, trip generation rates. When we looked at the site today, it actually generates more than what ITE would say under a proposed condition of a convenience market with fueling positions, 8 vehicle fueling positions. So what we did was, we looked at the site and got a rate based on what the site is generating today, based on 6 vehicle fueling positions, because that's going to be the same between the existing and the proposed, not the number, but the independent variable, if you will. There's no service station in the future, there's going to be a convenience store, so that's what we use to base our rate on. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question. It does generate a lot of traffic, so I can see why they wanna, redevelop the site.
What are
Do
the
some
numbers?
numbers.
So anyway, the site today, I wasn't gonna speak about what it generates today, but I'll give you those. The site today generates,
Because the number of hours are very restricted today in today's market. And you're talking about 24 hours or something, I don't
yeah,
know
well,
how
we
that
look at the
gets-
peak hours, we look at the peak hours, so during the weekday PM peak hour, the site generates 237 peak hour trips, so 1 hour, ins and outs, equal 237 trips. On the Saturday, it's 102. As part of the proposed development, we would be increasing the additional trips to new trips on the site, 79 during the peak hour, PM peak hour, and 34 during the Saturday midday peak hour.
In addition to the current condition.
Correct, and again, you have to take into pass-by, because gas stations, typically draw off of traffic that's already on the roadway. Typically, for what ITE says for this type of site, it would be a 66% pass-by. Sounds about right. Most people are on the roadway, they're not going out of their way to go get to go get gas or convenience items. However, because
Route 1A is under state jurisdiction, we're restricted to using a 25% pass-by. So when we talk about new trips into the area as a result of this redevelopment, we would be talking about 59 PM peak hour trips and 26 Saturday midday trips. So that's what we have based on the information that we have at the site today. Those, once you spread that traffic out up Walnut, up north on Bay, down on Bay, it's about, increases anywhere from 4 to 27 vehicle trips an hour, so that's about one additional vehicle every 2 to 15 minutes, depending on what road you're on. We sent most of our traffic up to the north because when we counted the driveway today, you see a lot of people coming to and from the north. A little bit about the site access, just to kind of go over again what Matt had already spoke about. The driveways will be better defined, they'll be scrunched a bit. They're kind of wide open curb cuts today, I'm sure as you all know. When the gates come down, the queues get long, up Walnut, down Bay in both directions. So that leaves this site wide open for cut-through traffic. We counted that. Those numbers that I gave you do not include any cut-through traffic. However, in our analysis, we included that cut-through traffic. During the PM peak hour, 22 cars do that through the site. 22 in, 22 out. On a Saturday, only about 3. That's what our numbers tell us. We've analyzed the driveways, including that cut-through traffic, so we know we can accommodate it. However, with shifting this driveway a little bit further to the west to align with the shop's driveway, I think is good in order to eliminate another conflict point along Walnut Road. But in addition, in this case, with the modifications to the 2 driveways and better defining them, I do believe it will cut down on the cut-through traffic on the site because queues will most likely, when the gate is down, block this driveway. And so when it was further up to the north, it was a bit easier for cars to cut through. So I think we'll be, helping that, but we didn't eliminate it from our numbers as people do it today. They may do it in the future.
You're gonna have a rainwater infiltration system. What is your maintenance program for that type of device?
We will, we will include an operation and maintenance plan for all of the stormwater infrastructure that's being proposed as part of the stormwater report. And typically, the underground systems get inspected anywhere between 6 months and a year. Now, keeping in mind, this system would only take rooftop runoff, so there wouldn't be a large source of sand or particulates getting into it. So it's the type of system that, I've done inspections on those types of systems, and they go years and years without needing maintenance from filling up with sediment or leaves, that type of thing. But there will be an inspection and a maintenance program in place. Routine inspection, and then the maintenance would be based on the inspections as needed.
You had mentioned the crosswalk and then a sidewalk, and I was just curious, it is a state,
Yep.
so you'd have to.
That's what I was gonna talk about next. So these crossings that were kind of brought up at our preliminary meetings with the town, what we've tried to do is, or what we have done, not tried to do, we have done, we've proposed them in the locations that we think are the safest due to the railroad crossing. We don't want any of our pavement markings or advanced warning signs conflicting with anything that has to do with the railroad. So we have proposed it at the northern property line over here, and pretty much right where the path comes out over here to get people over to the shops if that's where they desire to be. We've proposed advanced warning signs, which are, as you drive up and down Bay Road, you can see them. There's lots of crossings along the whole corridor. We've proposed both advanced warning signs, yield markings, which are not typical on some of the crossings that are in town, but that's a new standard with the crosswalk here signs. That's the same thing over here. As you mentioned, this is state highway. We will need approval from Mass DOT to get that crossing in. I have sent the plan to them preliminarily prior to even sending in our access permit application. I have not gotten feedback, but I am very hopeful that I'll have something for the next meeting.
What about the sidewalk? Is that something you would work with the town, or is that a state thing?
Well, the state the state sidewalk in the state layout would be state, and along Walnut Road would be town. And that will all be part of the Mass DOT application for permit to access state highway. Even if we weren't doing these crosswalks, we are doing work within the state layout to put in sidewalk and also modify the driveway, so they need to look at the project.
Does the board have any more questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I'm worried about the time schedule. Christine has booked 2 site plans back to back, and you said we were gonna start on the pool at 8:30.
That's right.
And can we ask this
They're coming
group to
back.
come back? No, I know they're coming on the 18th, but they wanted to react to us on the 18th, and then they're even going to ZBA 2 nights before. I mean, this is our last best shot, and it seems to me we really need to dig in a lot more on this site plan. There's a lot of things that have to change. And I think we need to say, slow down by at least another 2 weeks of meetings and reschedule the going to the ZBA so that the planning board can play its function as being the preliminary review committee on site plan. Because if we go through the list of things that are inside my folder here, there's 27 things to judge the site plan on, and we have to tear this site plan apart. And that's gonna take an hour and a half. I don't see how we can do that tonight. It's a good introduction. We can all go home and read.
I think they were intending on having your group get your initial feedback tonight and to come back on the 18th. As they said, their stormwater report is not submitted yet, so they'll be before you March 18th. Their
And your
meeting,
septic as well, right?
yes, their meeting with the zoning board is for April 5th,
Oh, we've got plenty of time.
so you have plenty of time.
No, well, then,
Between now, you have now and the next meeting to digest this,
Yeah.
get your questions back to me so I can get them to them. They'll meet again on the 18th, and then you'll have more time,
I
put
thought
forward
they
your
said they had to go
advisory
to
opinion.
ZBA on the 14th.
No, that's their
Submit.
deadline for filing, so they get their legal notices in the paper.
Oh,
So they have to have their paperwork in
different-
for their filing.
different piece.
What happens April 5th?
April 5th is the next zoning board meeting. They meet once a month, so they've got to begin their proceedings as well.
So I think the takeaway is the canopy seems to be the biggest.
Canopy and then the sign.
Well, and the sign, they
Sign.
presented to, and that was my question to your board. They did present to you the
The
white
I know.
sign versus the other option. If you look in your packets,
I know.
I don't know if your board has a preference.
How
If you
about
wanna
no
offer them
sign at
guidance.
all? That should be an option
And it's
also.
allowed by right, and, so,
I think it just has to be, we've
yeah,
said,
it could
it's
be
really
There's two
smaller in
kinds.
scale.
I don't know if your board wants to debate which they
I don't
prefer.
think
We
we
don't-
need
we
to
do-
fit
No,
that.
I can get
But
the,
do you,
I
I mean,
can get
it's a
the.
question.
I like the store personally. So,
Well, we used to recognize the Gulf Station by there being a great big Bartlett pear tree on the corner. It was the most beautiful tree in town. And then someone came along and cut it down, and that was when we started hating the Gulf Station. And
Progress.
we're still in that mode.
Can we,
They're not very sensitive to the community, I'm afraid.
We've got to
Summarize this.
I recognize this gentleman here first, then there's a hand up behind you, which I promised, so go ahead, sir.
I think it's just worth, reinforcing what Matt has said earlier. The reason for the elongated rooftop over the dispensers is mainly because the industry has moved towards rotating the dispensers relative to the street access. Today, those dispensers are in line with respect to Route 1A, such that if you were to, get serviced, if there was a vehicle in front of you, you would need to wait for that vehicle to move before you can move, or you'd have to back up.
Right.
These fueling positions here are independently accessed and are not relying on a vehicle in front or behind you. The trade-off of that is that you need more room to maneuver, and as well as it results in a slightly longer.
Your point is well taken. I don't read that as being one of the major problems confronting us.
Well,
Well, it does, it
Well,
affects
that
the
is,
canopy.
that is.
Well, it affects the,
That
it
is
affects the
major
canopy.
problem confronting us.
I totally disagree, and quite honestly, I think you could come up with a billion more reasons to have a huge canopy, but I don't think the town will be behind it. Your audience in part, your prospective purchasers in part, are the people who live in this town. And I don't think the people in this town are gonna embrace what you've proposed. I mean, quite honestly, if you had a 10-foot sign in front of that place that said gas or Cumberland Farms, you've accomplished your goal. What's the goal of the sign? To bring people in. You can accomplish that goal with a 10-foot sign, given that proximity of where that is in terms of the road and so forth. People are driving around, you don't need a 20-foot sign. So I think that what you've got to consider is how you want to approach the people in this town, not Lexington, not the people who drive Route 1 and so forth. If you want to embrace the people in this town, I think you need to make some significant changes, or you're going to lose them.
I recognize the gentleman in the audience. Yes.
Just wanted to say, at least one resident thinks that the village of Hamilton.
Could you speak up some, please?
I would like to say that at least one resident in the village of Hamilton thinks that the size of that canopy and sign is hideous. It's way too big. This is a little small town. Leading to the next good question though, has there been any integration with the HDC of this site? For example, I understand that you're considering maybe gas lights. It would be a shame to rip this whole site up and not put the provisions in for the gas lighting, if you were going to do that. I don't know, I'm not on the HDC, but my question is there other things that the HDCs could integrate with this site for its presentation?
Well, we have two HTC members, the chairman here.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of talk of gas lighting in certain areas.
I mean, I didn't mean to focus on that, but I mean, thing in general.
To the what in general?
HDC in general, your plans for the downtown area, do they fit in with
They,
this current?
when they came in to talk to Christine, she had the downtown plan that it was created by, the planning study that we were part of. Showed them that, and part of that was the sidewalks that they're now, proposing. That was one item. Part of it was, we don't have design review in place right now, or design standards in place, but that's one thing we wanna talk about, and I know that Christine mentioned it to them. And, I think there's a couple different styles of Cumberland Farm stations. There's kind of the white stucco-ish looking building, and now there's the more sided, more in keeping with the traditional kind of town buildings. So I think that's what they've tried to do in this case. So yes, there has been a little bit of that communication, that, not directly with the HDC, but with some of the things that came out of the planning session that we did.
Yes, sir.
I'm here for the pool meeting, so I'm gonna definitely catch some grief for this. But I live 150 yards away from this place. I go there all the time, and unlike Mr. Clark, I also pay a little extra because I buy my pizzas at Hamilton House. They're cheaper elsewhere, but I just wanna support. Anyway, any comparison to Lexington is ludicrous. I appraise real estate. Lexington has nothing to do with Hamilton. The hours, the lighting, they're looking for 24 hours. Okay, now they close at 10. Well, next year maybe midnight, maybe all night. And this, anyway, vinyl siding. I mean, seriously, fake vinyl shingles. It's just awful. It is completely contrary to everything that we have tried to do in downtown Hamilton. I echo Mr. Melick and Claudia. This belongs on Route 1, absolutely wouldn't blink an eye, but it has nothing to do with downtown Hamilton. And a crosswalk where you're proposing, there's a saying about a snowball someplace. Thank you.
Peter, what is your suggestion?
Well, my first thing is that we need to give them a lot of feedback, and we can do that at the next meeting. And we can go back to our master plan, and we can talk with the HDC, which is the Hamilton Town Economic Development Committee, but really, we need to accelerate their standards a little bit, because we're trying to create a character to this community. We thought it was a little bit out of control with the existing canopy, and there was a big uproar over the change in signs, which was an enormous increase in the size. And now you're sort of doubling that again and changing the character completely. This is meant to be a small, sort of a stable-oriented downtown. We have the most interesting hunt club in north of New York City. We have polo fields, we have a lot of green space, and the character of this community, you're just getting it all wrong. So we're gonna have to talk about that. I don't know if we can, when they talk about leading a horse to water or to the drinking trough, but you need to get in tune with this community, and this design is just gonna put off most of the people that live here. And I don't know whether you plan on a customer base being similar to what is there. The traffic engineer has said, we did the count that you have, and we're gonna up it up a little bit because we'll get some more people, but what if nobody returns that are current customers because they can't stand what you're planning to do there? So I think you need to take that into consideration. I don't wanna point to Essex, but they have a Richdale there, and it's a very downscale Richdale compared with standard Richdales. But a lot of people in Essex love going to that small store. It's sort of a woodsy kind of thing. It's got some nice clapboarding and it's red paint, and it's a small scale. And people don't mind waiting in line to get to the gas pumps because it's convenient for them. And it is a real convenience store, and there's a lot of traffic going in and out of that store. But that's my feeling, is we need to make comparisons as to what the services are that this community will want to support.
Is this helpful? Oh, good.
I think they've heard quite clearly
I think
what
they've
the
got the
concerns
message.
are. I'd like to give them a chance to look at the plan and come back with what is more reflective of what they've heard.
Look at our master plan.
And just
That's
so,
where this all sorts of
understood. So I'd like to give them a chance to absorb the information, come back with modifications that they feel are, they can live with, and then we'll start from there. I'd like to give the pool site plan review due diligence, so I request that we close this and move on to the pool.
I second that.
We're closed. I don't know, we need that as a vote, do you think?
No,
No, it's continued.
Just
I
continue.
don't think so.
Continue this.
Just continue.
But
Yeah,
this is being continued to the next meeting.
being continued until the 18th. We will have Canterbrook hearing that night, continuation Canterbrook hearing. What would your time estimate be on that?
I don't know yet. I'll get back to you on that on the agenda.
long.
Christine, I just would ask, have they seen the, sort of the character of the town from the master plan and so forth? Have you given them a copy of it so they can see?
It's online.
That's online.
Well,
mean,
I
we don't have
encourage you to
copies
look
in the
at that.
town, so, of that one.
I mean, we would sort of like to see how we can get our horses downtown. I don't think you got that yet.
We're getting horses downtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for coming in and spending your time with us, and we hope one of you can represent, one or all of you can represent yourselves on the 18th.
Yes. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, one other thing, where's the billboard for all of the signs?
Carl, I've been videotaping.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry? It's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah. Pictures go a long way.
It's a real thing.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right, thank you. Good night.
That's part of the discussion, that's part of the discussion we're going to probably, I hope, have time tonight. Whole history behind what you're asking.
They don't need a.
It's not good, it's not right. No, it's absolutely.
That's what I tried to, that's what the operation was supposed to do, that's what they promised to do.
Let's continue.
I couldn't download that.
It is hard and small, you have all the information in the packet you were given tonight.
I'd like to read this letter that I wrote.
Do not have.
I don't. Right,
All the other discussion was supposed to be some site plan review. And I'd just like to have his response to it.
They're gonna go over whatever questions are
Well, it
tonight.
says.
Excuse us for being tardy, but we got a heavy agenda. The second site plan review tonight is the Patton Park Pool. The applicant proposes to redevelop the community pool at the Patton Park. Our clerk has something that he needs to bring to our attention.
I feel like at the beginning of this, there were some communication lines that got crossed here, and I wanted to set them straight, because I think that was unfortunate, in terms of how this was set up. So I had written a letter, because of this mix-up, and I just want to read the letter. And this was to Christine, as our assistant. The pool, and I copied Sean on this as well. The pool project, as I understand it, and as you seem to indicate in our meeting, is not wholly on Hamilton Town land. That was our rationale for leading a general discussion as opposed to a site plan review. Sean, in his letter, indicated that the planning board, he feels, has the authority over the proposed parking lot. Neither Ed nor I have seen the specific materials to which he's referring. However, Ed and I are willing to defer to you that if those materials indicate that the proposed parking lot is in fact wholly on Hamilton Town land to which the planning board would have authority over, then we are willing to upgrade the discussion status to a limited site plan review. The revised agenda should state that we will be hearing the limited site plan review. And then I signed it, and Ed acknowledged it. I just wanted to get some response from you, Sean, in terms of what...
Sure, so the plan that was submitted for site plan review does have the parking lot on town, wholly on town property.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the plan that Sherry will be speaking to tonight, the entire plan is on town property. So where we thought that, from conversations that the town manager was having with Myopia, we thought we were in good standing with them as far as an easement or possibly a land swap. That, apparently is not the case. So Weston and Sampson went back then again, sorry.
Okay,
Weston and
so
Sampson went
that's
back to
not
work.
part of the proposal.
So everything that you'll see tonight is on town land.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, no problem.
These are actually updated from the big ones, which will actually save a little table space. The last 2 pages, I apologize, are stapled upside down. That guy's last day is Friday.
So we don't need these.
You don't. I'm happy to recycle them for you.
Sure.
Good idea.
To the board, there is a packet between each of the 2 of you that has the stormwater report and the site plan documents to share this evening. The hard copies of some of these reports, we don't have, I don't know if we have enough for your board and ZBA and department heads at the time. So much of this has been sent to you electronically. If you need a hard copy, let me know at the end of the night, but I'll be kind of holding on to some of those in between for the other boards and department heads.